Well, hello again. The old temperature has finally cooled down quite a bit here in Arkansas. How long it lasts is anybody's guess. But I've been taking advantage of it by working on the jukebox. Yeah, still in the air-conditioned shop, but you know, I am able to get out here a couple of times and do a little bit of extra work. Now, I told you in the last video that I had found up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the center balance that's missing from the front of the car. And it came in. I bought it. It came in. It cost me $60, which was an excellent buy. The problem was the shipping was $50. So that whole thing cost me $110. And I was not a happy camper, but I have to admit it is a very heavy piece of metal. And I guess if it comes right down to it, I can't drive to Milwaukee and back for $50. So, you know, suck it up. Be a man, John. No problem. All right, now along with the center valance, which we'll show you later. This center part right here, it goes all the way up and back of the grill, all the way up to the latch mechanism for the hood. They sent me that also. Well, I thought that was very nice of them. So let's take a look at it. That's it right there, and as you can see, it was very, very rusty. On this side was even worse. And it was that way all the way up to the end. Now, I stuck it in the old vinegar for about, I guess about 7 days. And every once in a while, I would come out, pick it up out of the old vinegar and take this little tiny wire brush right here and just kind of, you know, give it a rub to loosen up whatever rust had been loosened. And after about, I think it was about 7 or 8 days, I guess is what it was, look what happened. Well, I'll tell you what, a lot of that is gone. We still have a little ways to go, but that heavy rust is all gone. Now, of course, that got me to thinking, and that's always bad. Now here we have a can of grease. We have a bigger wire brush, a smaller one that I just showed you. We have a chisel, whether or not we use it or not, I don't know. And I have a screwdriver. What are we going to do with that? Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do with that. We're going to take as much rust off of this brake drum as possible and dirt. And we're going to get it as clean as we can. Then I'm going to take the wire brush on the outside and I'm going to wire brush it and loosen up all the flaky rust I can find, both on the inside and the outside, because I'll tell you the honest truth, I'm getting tired of derusting. Even though it's a lot easier now with the vinegar, I'm still sick of derusting. Seems like that's all I've done ever since I started YouTube videos was derust something. Anyway, but that's, you know, that's the life I have chosen. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wire brush as much of it I can off, just basically loosen it up. And then we're going to take it and we're going to plunge. Well, first we're going to take some grease. We're going to put it all around the inside of the drum where the brakes hit. Looks like we got a little bit of buildup right there that needs to come off. Yeah. All right, we're going to go ahead and cover this entire area where the brake shoes hit with grease. Now, I found, at least I believe I found, that the vinegar, yeah, it removes the rust and all the other stuff, but it has a tough job with dirt and grease. So not a problem. I'll go ahead and coat that entire thing nice coat of grease all the way around. We'll just plunge it down in the old vinegar and let it sit for a few days and see what happens. Now, you all out there that want to squawk about this, too bad, so sad. By the time this video is up, these things will have already been soaking for 3 or 4 days, so don't squawk, okay? If it doesn't work, my bad. That's the way it goes. You know, you got to try something every once in a while just to see if it'll work. You know, you got to be adventurous, and that's exactly what we're going to do. I'll show it to you when I set it down in the vinegar. All right, here goes everybody. If I can do this one-handed, hopefully I can. If not, I'll have to shut the camera off and do it two-handed. No, we're getting it. Look at there. All right. All right, now I'm going to take vinegar that's in here. I'm going to pour it in there and try to cover it up as much as possible. Well, that's that. Over the next couple of days, or 3 days, I'll come out and give it a little spin, like so. Just kind of keep it moving a little bit, keep that rim wet. And meanwhile, we'll go ahead and cover it up with a couple of boards here, I think. Keep it all from evaporating too quickly. And we'll just do it like that. There we go. Alright, on to the next item for today. For our old Thunderbird, I decided to pick up a set of Monroe Spectrums. They're called OES Spectrums. And they're I got them at O'Reilly for 27 bucks a piece. 27 and some change, I think it turned out to be. Anyway, I like them. They're about the original size. The size of the originals is what I'm trying to say. We're going to go ahead and stick them on these shock mounts. And of course I have the 4 bolts, the original bolts. They've been cleaned, derusted, and painted. And this is what these 5 things: the nut, the 2 rubber mounts, and the 2 large washers. They come in this white paper bag inside the box. So let's get rid of the box. That's all you get, is what you see right here. Just that. Get this in the box. Well, one-handed box doesn't work too well. Okay, there we go. Alright, well, the way this thing works is when you put them back on, is you take one of your flanges or your washers and stick it like that. Then you stick, now if you'll notice, one side has a large ring on it and the other side does not. That large ring will be fitting down in this hole like that, okay? So that means that this has to go on like this with the ring up, like so. Now we're going to take this, run it through the hole from the bottom, and then we're going to put these back on the top. Alright, I just threaded it on down by hand. Again, the large washer size of this rubber thing goes against this. And now what we're going to do is we're going to tighten up this nut down to the outside of this rubber. I want to get a close up here. This is important because I always see this done wrong. When I was younger, everybody did it wrong, and I don't know why. They would tighten down this nut until this rubber would bulge out past the washers. You know, way out, just flatten them down to nothing. You don't do that. You do not do that, okay? You don't need it to look like a herniated disc in somebody's back. What you do is you tighten it on down until the outside edge of the rubber, oh, we got a nice little breeze blowing here, until the outside edge of the rubber is even with the outside edge of the washer. Now let me show you. I'll tell you what, it looks like we might be getting ready to get a little shower here, which is really going to be welcome. So we'll drag this thing back inside the garage. Now the end of this thing is flat, by the way. It has flat edges. You can see them right there. You know, that'll enable the hold. Sometimes you start tightening this nut down and the entire thing turns, okay? And you got to hold it in place somehow, so they have that little flat edge there to help that out. You tighten it on down, and then use the other hand to just keep tightening. And every once in a while you got to kind of, you know, grab a hold of your back up here. While you're tightening, don't be in any big giant hurry. Just kind of grab this and kind of move it around a little. Make sure it's still seated nice every so often until you get it down to where that rubber meets the outside edge of the washer. Alright, we're starting to get on down there. I think that's going to be about as far as I want to go. I don't want to flatten that thing out completely. Let's take a look at the one on the inside. Yeah, the one on the inside is just about even with that. Might be just a tad beyond it, but that'll be okay. Once that shock starts bumping up and down, it'll even out. And we're going to stop right here. That's plenty close enough, okay? It's nice and tight, nice and snug. Now we'll just go ahead and take this baby, run it up through the hole, and hook this to the bottom bolt down there on the I guess it's part of the axle, and then not part of the spring, it's part of the axle, and put a little silicone maybe down in there so it'll slip over it. Once we get it slipped over that thing, then we'll go ahead and start running our bolt. We'll fit, you know, line up these holes where the screw bolts go through, where the bolts go through, and we'll just start tightening it up. They're all 9/16, by the way. This is a 9/16, and so are the bolt heads that hold the whole thing up into the body. Let's crawl under the car. One shock is on. I did not tighten up the nut at the bottom down here. I didn't like the looks of the flat washers that came off there, and I forgot to go downtown and get some. So tomorrow I'll get some flat washers and we'll put them up against there and then put the nut on, tighten everything up. Let's go over and I'll finish the other side now. Well, here's one for you, boys. It almost looks like a pie, doesn't it? It's been sitting in there for about 3.5 days now, and it's got some kind of a foamy I don't get this at all. I don't understand that at all. Anyway, I'm either going to have a really clean but have a really clean brake drum here, or I'm going to have to go out and buy a new one. You know, I love experiments. You never know what you're going to get. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take this little wire brush. We're going to scrub all. We're going to pull this thing out of here because some of it got on the floor. And this is only 5% acidic vinegar. Only 5%. And it ate a little bit of surface off the concrete. Did not expect this. I did not see this happen before. Hey, live and learn, right? Not the end of the world. We'll survive. I'm going to take this baby out of there and we're going to do a little scrubbing. Maybe wash it down a little bit and I'll let you see what the results are. Well, there it is, guys. I think it looks really nice. You know, I gave it a good washing. Then I took a wire brush, this one right here, after I gave it a good washing and dried it off. You want to dry it off as quickly as you can after you wash it. I sprayed it down with the, just stuck it out in the yard and sprayed it down with the hose. And try to give it a good drying as quickly as you can because surface rust immediately begins to form on this thing inside and out. So I took this little wire brush here and I just went down through here and knocked off any loose rust that was still there. I don't plan to soak it for 2 more days to take care of a tiny little bit of rust. Took it off with a little bit of sandpaper along the bottom edges here. Wire brush the rest, and we're ready for some primer. And it's beginning to get hot out here, so I better get it primed in a hurry. That'll give it time to dry. On the inside, I'm going to go ahead and prime it also. I'm just going to go ahead and spray it. And if some of it gets on the surface where the brake shoes go, not a problem. I'm going to take some lacquer thinner and clean around there anyway. We'll clean it all back off. So we don't get excited about stuff like that. So let's see what happens here. Let me shake this can up. I'll tell you what, I might as well do a little teaching while we're at it. This thing right here, what the heck is that? It's got holes bored in it. This is a, you know, when they take these things out of the molds or whatever they form them in, they're not balanced properly. They'll wobble around, so they have to balance them just like a tire. When you go down to the store, you know, you shop, get your tire put on, they have to balance this too. And they put this weight on there and weld it in, or they weld it as part of the casting process, I'm not sure which, and then they'll drill holes to get it to where it runs around in a circle nice and even without wobbling. That's all, just a counterweight. Okay, let's see what happens here. Yeah, she's looking pretty good. I like that. Ooh, let's paint our counterweight, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Alright, let me finish her up. Alright, we're putting the final touch on it. Looked really good with that primer. That's that extra heavy rust protecting primer for extra heavy rust. Yeah, that's going to be a nice looking hub when I get done. But while the paint was drying, I went ahead and cleaned out this, took it outside. You know, all of this stuff is biodegradable. It's just apple juice, apple cider. Anyway, we'll go ahead and put some fresh cider in this thing, and maybe tomorrow I'll do the same thing to the other drum. You don't need to see that. You know how it is. You got to have a big mess. You got to make a big mess. You got to get all kinds of crap everywhere. And you got to look like a bozo, you know, in order to do it. And I did real well on all those counts. So we'll go ahead and fill this up. I've already got 1 gallon of vinegar right here, and I probably could have used that other vinegar too, but it had been soaked. It had soaked an awful lot of rusty things in it. Well, it's a new day, and I have made a trip to Walmart, picked up more vinegar to replace that old nasty stuff. And we have learned from our mistakes. Yes, we have. I got a larger container. Larger and deeper. We're not going to have any more of that overflowing jazz. So I'll be pouring the vinegar in there, letting it soak for another 3 or 4 days. You probably won't see the results of it till the next video. Meanwhile, what we're going to do today is we're going to pull these seals out of there. See that seal that's sitting in there like that? We got one on each side of the car. I've cleaned everything up real good. And we're going to go ahead and pull them out. And let me show you the tool and how we're going to do that and what the seal actually looks like for those who have never done this or seen this. Okay, education time. That seal up in there looks just like this. Okay? It's got a rubber around the inside. The axle goes through here. For those of you who have been following the videos, you know that. And years ago they were metal all the way around, but nowadays they coat them with a type of rubbery compound of some kind. I don't know exactly what it is, neoprene or something. Anyway, Years ago, before they put this rubbery type seal compound on there, you had to put a little bit of sealer around the edge and then drive it on into the race where it fits. And but now with this rubbery compound, it's self-sealing, so that's kind of nice. I like that. Now, how do we get it out? Well, normally you use a tool that has an inside claw on this side and an inside claw on this side. Sometimes you have three, and you go in through the hole, and those claws go on this, go around the edge like that and that and that. And then you use a slide hammer to attach to that claw thing, and you just bang it back like we did when we used the slide hammer last time that you saw me use. However, unfortunately, O'Reilly's loaner tool list did not have a puller like that, but they do have, or they did have, a pilot bearing puller attachment, which is this, which is pretty darn close, and I'm kind of hoping it'll work. And if it doesn't, no big deal. I'm not out any money. They just loaned it to me. Now this thing here does have hopefully enough lip that'll go between those holes in there like so, spread apart, and then I can press it against the metal on the rear. This metal underneath this rubber is a metal lip, and this is soft metal, so it really shouldn't take that much of a problem of pulling it out. Okay, now if it doesn't want to come out, well, maybe I can just use one side, hold it with my hand, tap it, use the slide hammer with the other, and just keep pulling, moving it around until I finally get it out. But I'm going to tell you, one way or another, that seal, both of those seals are coming out of that axle housing. So that's what we do. We take this thing here, we just screw it right on the end of this. And incidentally, this has two different size thread setups in there. One for a very large slide hammer, one for a smaller one. Now this is the smaller one, so you got to put it on even further. We'll go ahead and put it on there and thread it on up in there, just like so, as far as we can, and then bring the nut down to meet it, and that'll tighten it right on there. Okay, so that's how it's done. So let me get on back over to the car. Well, it's pretty obvious. I'm going to need both hands to do this, but we're just going to fit that baby right up in there like so on both sides of that metal. Like I said, we're going to spread it apart, and then we're going to start pulling it out. And now in the process, we may wind up destroying the rubber first, but that's okay because it'll take us down to the metal second. We don't need the rubber anyway. We got a brand new seal. So let me see what I can do. Well, I'm happy to show you that it worked like a charm. Now I had to use one. I couldn't hold two and keep them in place. I just used one and put it along the edge there, and then just kept bang, 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 and it popped right out of there. Piece of cake. Let's get the other one out. Well, there's the second one. Popped out just as easily. Now the question arises, why didn't O'Reilly have the proper tool? It's an automotive parts store. They've got everything they need for any other kind of job, but why didn't they have the claw mechanism that would go up in there? The reason being is that today's bearings are mounted flush. They're mounted flush like that. They're not recessed, so they don't have a need for it. This is an old car. The bearings are mounted further in. Okay, so they mount flush. They have a tool that just goes in there and just pops them right out. Just you put it in there and you grab the handle. Got a little hook on it. Just get right behind it like that. Take the handle and just pop it right out of there. So they don't get much call for the kind that deals with the recessed seals. Well, let me clean it up, and I'll tell you what. Before I clean it up, I'll show you how we're going to get the new seal back in. The next little goodie we'll be using is a bearing race and seal driver set, which is kind of interesting. I've never used one. If you're putting a bearing race in, a metal bearing race, this is the end you use right here, because it is tapered to the same angle as the bearing race. And this thing, of course, comes in different sizes. But we're not putting a bearing race in. We're putting a seal in. That's why it's called a bearing race and seal driver. So what we do is we use the same one, or you find the size you need, and we turn it around the other way and use the other side, not this side. This side for the seal. You try to get one that's exactly the same diameter as your seal, okay? Because this seal is going to go in that way. Remember, the metal part will face you when you're done. It'll show up in the axle. You've already seen that. So get one, you don't want one too big, you don't want one too small. If you get one too small, you wind up caving in the metal. Remember, I told you it's not that, the metal is not that tough. So you want a good flat surface. This is pretty good. Of course, it's just gone through a lot of damage over the years from all the people using it for probably different things. But it should work. What we're going to do is we take this little handle right here. We take the nut off, or the screw out of it. If I can ever get it out of there. And then we stick it down in the hole like that. Put the screw in from the other side. And just a matter of lining the whole thing up in the hole where the axle is. And then hitting the end with a hammer. Let me finish getting it together. Alright, as you can see, that driver flat piece is just a tad smaller than the seal itself. You don't want it sticking out past the edges of the seal. So once we get it in there, we line it up like that. And you don't want to sit there with a sledgehammer and slam it and slam it and slam it. Use a reasonably sized hammer and just tap it, tap it, tap it. And of course, you got to clean out the inside where it's going to go. First, get a nice clean rag, throw some spray in there, get any dirt, grime, grease, whatever. Get that out of there, because when you drive this thing in, you want this edge here to make a nice seal. You don't want to have to yank it back out and go buy another one. Now, they're not that expensive. I had to order this one online. I can't remember where I got it. It seems to me it was, where did I get it? It seems to me it was Max. I can't remember where I got it. It was either Mac or Rock Auto. But anyway, let's see if we can't clean up that inside of both of those axles and get these seals in so I can take all this junk back to O'Reilly. Alright, let's take a look up in there and see what we got before I do anything else. Oh yeah, a lot of black crap. Probably sealer when they put the last one in. Either that or they just left it in there when they put a second one in, because this might be a new one. I don't know, I don't care. We're going to have to get up in there and at least, let me see, we're going to have to at least, let me get this thing up here where we can see what we're looking at. We're going to have to at least get this surface right here clean. Back in here probably won't matter so much, but this is right, this is the race, this is the part where the seal will go in on and push against that thing right there and seal up. So we've got to get all this crap out. I'm going to try to get it as clean as I can. Alright, that's about as clean as she's going to get. Once again, our good friend lacquer thinner on a rag, using a rubber glove of course. Don't use that stuff on your skin. Just went in there and kept scrubbing, 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 light scrape, get rid of most of that. Was a rubber type of compound, so it came off that for sure. This must have had some kind of a rubber outside coating, just like this one here. But anyway, let me go ahead and see if I can get that baby driven in. Alright, let's go into this a little more detail. I don't want somebody taking this thing, setting the driver on it, and just start pounding it in. First thing you gotta do is make sure it's nice and clean on the outside, like I have, and set it up in there on this race part right there as far as you can get it to go. It'll go in pretty much by hand right there. Okay, now it's sitting in there all by itself. Now we take this and put it against there and keep it centered as much as you can and go ahead and tap it in. And a good ball peen would probably be your best bet. But remember, this is soft metal. It's not very hard, and it doesn't take gorilla force to make it go in. You're going to tap, tap, tap until you hear it and feel it seat against the inside lip that'll come up against the inside of this thing. One more thing. Don't worry about these seals. Have I ever damaged one trying to get it in? You bet. I think I had to buy one 3 times before I figured out how to do it right. So if you damage it, don't worry about it. They're cheap. Go get another. She's in. Seated all the way around. You can feel it when it bottoms out. It'll be a harder thud, 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 okay? That's all there is to it, folks. I hope you learned something on that. Now we'll do it the same thing to the other side. And I think what we'll do today is go ahead and call this video quits. It's starting to get pretty hot out here again. And next time we'll put the axles in and we'll put the brakes on one side. And you'll know how to do it to the other side. And one thing I want you to notice about these axles, let me go over there where the axles are. Take a look at these axles and you'll see that the one on the left is longer than the right, of course, and the one on the left is the passenger side of the car, and the one on the right is the driver's side. It's the way the differential is constructed inside, the way the gears are set up. You've got Well, you got a spider gear and the pinion gear and all this other jazz. And the way it's constructed and everything, you can have a shorter shaft on one side and a longer on the other. So don't worry about it. Just clean them all up and get them ready to put in. I'll show you how to do that next time. So until then, this is John.
There's a man who leads a life of danger.